and a 10 and a 9 and a 3 and a 2, and we're here live on Facebook. I'm pretty sure. Are we live? Let's just say we are. Hey everybody, welcome. Star Trek DS9 Season 1 Episode 11, The Nagus, is over and has been since, I don't know, I think March of 1993 or something, but we're just getting started here. Live Long and Podcast. I'm Dave Mader, joined with Jeff Mader to talk to you about DS9, and we're also here tonight with Jaemeel Robinson talking about this episode as we continue our 3.5-year journey on rewatching Deep Space Nine. And we're here streaming live on Facebook. Also, you might be listening to us after the fact on the audio version or on YouTube, or watching us on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. So, hey, let's talk about the first. Is it the first Ferengi-centric episode, maybe in all of Star Trek? I think.
Was there not one in TNG?
Well, there are, but I guess more from their perspective, because this is a Quark-focused episode, and as Quark is a main character, as a main cast member of a series, as a Ferengi versus more of a guest appearance. As we're about to do here this week on Live Long and Podcast, if you're going to be tuning in here on Friday, we're going to be doing Menage a Troy, Season 3 episode featuring some dubious Ferengi characters, one played by Ethan Phillips, who went on to play Neelix on Voyager. And I think, Jeff, you have that character this week. But
no, I gave it up, didn't I?
No, you have Ferric. Yeah.
Oh, I have Ferric. Oh, that's not the main guy.
Yeah, no, you don't have the main guy. Yeah. So, okay, so let's get opinions. Let's start with Jaemeel talking about the Nagus.
The Nagus. To me, this is the first Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode that I really feel like everything comes together, right? Enterprise, you're really focused on what the Federation has, and you're not really taking the perspective of the potential different cultures that are being involved. This is the episode that, when I think back outside of Emissary, this is the episode I think of when I remember Deep Space Nine first season. This episode.
This is the.
This is the episode. This is a fantastic episode. It is. It's great.
Hey, I don't disagree, Jeff. How do you feel about the Nagus?
Yeah, it's good. It's a big part of why Deep Space Nine stands out. I mean, Deep Space Nine is not Federation centric. It's about a lot of different cultures and aliens that are on the station. They can have a story about Odo. They can have a story about the Ferengi. They can have a story about the Bajorans, and it has nothing to do with Starfleet whatsoever. And a lot of the other shows don't really do that. Like when they have a Worf episode in TNG, it's very much about, Worf, but he's a Starfleet officer first. That's kind of like it's told from that point of view.
And they're all usually, in TNG, they're all Starfleet officers, maybe save for Guinan and a couple other,
right.
But
Guinan's a very mysterious character, even still, I find. Whereas Worf, they fleshed out a lot more of his human background as far as who he's raised by. But they make no apologies for a different culture, especially this episode, kind of what Jaemeel was referring to, is that this episode really encapsulates a different culture and how the Federation, for instance, has to respect that culture and what the customs are. And that's very important for this episode. It establishes what Deep Space Nine is.
Yeah, fair. I think that's all spot on. Okay, I found this episode troubling in a lot of ways, especially the potential for Rom to be murdering Quark. I don't want to bury the lead about this episode, but there's a lot of brothers looking to kill. Jeff, if you try to throw me out of there, I'm definitely not going to reward you and buy you a drink.
Jeff, if you told Jeff multiple times that you were going to do that yourself, then I don't know if.
If I was Jeff, I'm always going to throw you out an airlock, and then you almost throw me. He hesitates. Rom hesitates. So I guess we're. Maybe Quark recognizes that too.
It doesn't seem like he was conflicted though, up until the point he has to touch the button. Every other point he's he's delighted with the prospects of killing his brother. So, I
He
mean, it's
conspires quite a bit with Zek's son, Krax.
Yeah.
You love these Ferengi names.
But I also believe that Rom is partially responsible of why the first attempt didn't really pay off. So
oh right, yeah, I think you're right. They don't really explain that in the episode, but I do agree that's probably most likely the case. So I mean, Rom's he's so different. I mean, as far as a character at this early
As
stage,
far as an arc goes, okay.
as an arc, yeah.
Where he is, he screams at Nog in this episode, "You will never return to that human school."
Yes.
Led by a female, right?
Yeah. And then Nagus is like, you let your son do this? It's like,
yeah. To a female, you let her go to school? Okay, I don't really understand the Ferengi as far as their attitudes towards school, because they don't they have scientists and people who have to study things in order to accomplish what they do.
They have to like make ships and computer pads and like don't they have to have and they have rules of acquisition, so that's obviously some sort of like have to be in a book, like it's strange what the stereotype they're using.
But at this point as a society, are they actually making these things, or are they like already outsourced it?
Or they just acquiring these things? There is like a thing that they acquired warp drive. They didn't necessarily invent their own warp drive, but aliens contacted them first, and they didn't have a prime directive. So many species probably. I think the Klingons got warp drive because they were kind of conquered by a species that had warp drive. There's a bunch of like tales like that, and so maybe the Ferengi. And as far as like we I think this episode sets up this world of possibilities with the Ferengi. We get a lot of Ferengi episodes after this. More is established, but what is never really clear is like quite how Ferengi society works. We get the sense that the Nagus is the head of their or the leader of their society, or at least the commerce portion focused area of their society, which their society has a lot of importance on. But we never see like the president of the Ferengi Alliance or anything like that. So it's led to just believe it's a consortium of businesses.
I would like to talk a little bit about how important this episode is for Jake as a character. This episode was the first episode where I was like, okay, they got something here with Jake. It makes sense. Like he's really good in the episode. Like it starts off with Sisko wanting to take him to Bajor. He's like, no, I want to go hang out with Nog, and then Nog kind of like asks him to lie for him in class. Like there's a whole bunch of conflicting moments that Jake has to go through in this episode, and he still like ends up on the right side, the moral side, the good side, and Sisko acknowledges it. And it's just like a really good like Father's Day episode in a lot of ways too. So that's what I took a lot from the episode. What do you guys think?
And that Jake is no snitch too.
Yeah,
Jake is no snitch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think that this is like a lot about sort of intolerance and how people and friendships are formed in spite of all kinds of pre-existing like prejudices, basically, right? Because like the humans don't like the Ferengi values, and the Ferengis don't like the human values, and they don't think that they can coexist. And it doesn't seem to very much line up with who the Federation is, what Starfleet's attitudes are. Even like Sisko says, "Yeah, man, I believe that too, but these are the Ferengi, And even when all the Ferengi ships start showing up, he calls down to Odo. He's like, "Hey, you better be checking out these Ferengis." He's like, "I'm already on it." I'm like, this is kind of racial profiling against Ferengis.
Count as silverware, he said.
Yeah, count the silverware, and it's a little bit. Woo, I don't know if like this, they have a reputation, earned or not, like it exists.
Well, they mentioned it themselves too. They're like, our reputation is terrible, and we can, start fresh in the Gamma Quadrant, where we can,
no one knows how bad we are.
Right? Break all of our promises again. This is a B storyline that I think works really well and kind of mirrors the A storyline, because you have the characters of Sisko and the rest of the Ferengi kind of like pulling Nog and Jake apart, and what Sisko sees when he kind of takes the time to like sneak after Dax tells him to.
Yeah.
He really notices that in the grand scheme of things, like the Federation can do a lot of good for the Ferengi, right? Not really understanding yet that Nog will be a great influence on Jake as well. That's going to be later on. But seeing that kind of like, and you see how the adults react, kind of gives Cisco a little hope in terms of how he was feeling at the beginning of the episode, especially towards the Ferengi, and how closed off they are and unwilling to change. Nog learning how to read is a change that he saw.
They wouldn't even let Morn in the bar. He doesn't talk.
There's some crazy moments with Morn in this episode. Morn laughing and
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Quark
wacky.
shooting him off like shoo.
Yeah, and that that Mr. Hom guy. He's not Mr. Hom, but he looks like kind of Mr. Hom guy who follows Zach around. He follows him around for all these appearances by Wallace Shawn as Zach. I don't know the name of the actor offhand, but it's
He's from Princess Bride, same guy, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. It's the same. He's in Princess Bride. Forget
Yeah, his name is Tiny Ron.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know if that's his birth name. Oh,
Stage name, Tiny.
Ronald Taylor, he was born as. Yes.
Okay.
He's known as Tiny Ron.
That was Tiny Ron. That's his stage name. That's his,
Tiny Lister
was
Jr.
actually he's passed, unfortunately.
Oh, rest in peace.
He also played a Hirogen. Oh, I didn't.
Oh, nice.
I thought isn't Zach Wallace Shawn?
Yeah, Zach is,
Yeah.
but the guy who played Tiny Ron's his like bodyguard guy. Or
Oh, the bodyguard. Oh, he passed away. Oh, shit.
Yeah. 72.
Oh, good life.
Big bucket of win.
Big bucket of win. That's
Yeah,
good.
he was Tiny Ron. He was on D Space Nine. None of us got to be on D Space Nine. So
No.
but here we're talking about it, and like I think that this episode does work on a lot of levels. I think the whole B story with this, if you can call it that, with Cisco and his and Jake and also I think with Zach and his son and Cracks, and this whole thing is a lesson he's trying to teach to his son at the expense of Quark and everybody, because Quark is just enthralled like by his celebrity status. He's kind of like he's starstruck by Nagus's just coming to here
At the beginning,
but then he's like, but he's here to buy me out, and I'm not gonna get proper value, and this sucks. And so he's,
I guess, is this like the president showing up, like, and going like, oh, it's so great to see you, Mr. President, and then you start to go, oh, does the president want like my bar, or because he wants to make money off me, or
I think it's more like the Godfather showing up.
The Godfather.
Yeah, it's a little closer to that, because that's the whole thing. Is I don't quite, as I always try to like understand each of these species kind of as a character and how their culture works. And the Ferengi, just like as the Nagus is, he seems to be like he's like the head of this syndicate, this commerce syndicate. But it's not clear, and he's in charge of like how the deals work in his culture. But beyond that, it's not.
It's probably
because
getting a percentage on the top of everything.
Yeah, because when the Ferengi were first introduced in the Next Generation, they were like this nemesis. They were supposed to be like this antagonist, kind of like the Romulans. And this is only 6-7 years later, and not even. And the Ferengi have become sort of like this whole other thing by this point. Like they've been kind of turned into this pariah race a little bit among in the species, because they're not considered threatening. Instead. So that's what I'm always trying to reconcile. Like, who were these Ferengi? What was Zach doing when the Enterprise was tangling with Ferengi marauders in the first season and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And Damon, whatever that guy who like was like tried to kill Picard's son, Damon, some other Damon. There's always and the Damons who we're gonna see a menage a Troy here on Live Long and Podcast here on Star Trek Radio Theater.
Yeah.
Friday Night Live, we're going to hear of Damon Togg, who kidnaps people, Luxana Troy and Deanna Troy, and there's it's not pretty, and Dr. Ferrick does some very nefarious brain experiments on Luxana. Not so I'm like, are they like an antagonist race? Are they like more evil? Or are they just kind of opportunistic and fun and whatever? Or are they just as diverse as anybody, and they have a whole bunch of different types of people in their culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the Ferengi, they're kind of like this. They can do anything with them, like as far as like they could really push them to the moral levels that most people would just go, gee, oh my god, like like some of the things they say, you kind of go like, oh my god, like but they're meant to be like this antagonist culture to the Federation, but they're also like their own thing where you just have to like look like almost like anthropology, where you look like you have to analyze their culture because they're so based on money and capitalism, basically. That's like what fuels them. But at the same time, they're very untrusting of each other. Like
No, it's
the whole,
encouraged. It's like it's in there. It's like written into the rule book.
it's right. Yes, like there's a whole bunch of times they reference in this episode where they say like you have loyal people around you, but not too loyal. Because then you can't trust that either.
Yeah.
So like, what can you like what kind of like they always want you to balance this line, the Ferengi. That's why you got to play these rules and but then they can like say these offensive things, like saying like, oh, you're being taught by a female, or like what they say all these ridiculous things, and we're not meant to like them, but we are meant to like individual characters. We're meant to like Quark. We're meant to like Nog. We're not meant to like Rom yet. Rom is not meant to be liked until maybe the end of the episode. I mean, maybe we start to turn around on him, and we start to see.
Well, I was like, I hate Rom by the end of this episode. I was like, how did I ever get behind Rom? Because he's like about to throw Nog out. I don't know how he gets away with it. I don't know how he doesn't get arrested for attempted murder.
How does Quark forgive
or conspiracy to commit murder? Odo's right there. Odo's the one who lets him out of the airlock.
No one gets arrested in this episode.
Yeah,
nobody.
No one.
Even,
Right, and it's not like
I think that
who did
Rom
what,
and Krax deserve it.
right? But if Quark is not going to press charges,
I suppose.
right?
Odo doesn't even ask him, but I guess it's kind of implied
because he damaged the station, or is the bar like considered Quark's establishment, and therefore whatever happens there is his responsibility, as opposed to the station as a whole and Bajor.
Or how much do they get involved in Ferengi affairs?
Like, is the syndicate powerful enough that Federation and Bajor just kind of like, we'll let it slide. We don't really want to cause an incident whatsoever.
Right.
Like there's a whole scene here. I think it's one of the best scenes of the episode where Quark is the Grand Nagus all of a sudden, and he's talking to Odo, and he's like, what does that mean? You're the Grand Nagus, and he's like, that means whenever you want to speak to me, you have to speak to Rom first. And Odo's just like, huh. Yeah. Okay.
Rom's an idiot. He couldn't fix a straw if it was bent.
So good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like at this point, like Odo and Quark are just well-established characters. So them just playing off of each other, even in small moments, is just like gold. Is just perfectly, exactly where everyone stands, and it's like you're seeing people perform on stage, and you immediately like, I know who this person is, I know who that person is, and you're just seeing them in play, and they're just bouncing off each other. It's great. It's great chemistry. Like you wish that all at this point in this show that like you don't really see it with like Bashir chemistry with nobody, right?
No.
Is Bashir even in this episode?
Nope. No, wait, yes, he does. He checks up on Quark.
I think he's like in the background. I think Cisco tells him to get lost. Like, he's like, what? No, never mind. Go.
No, you're in this.
You want a line? No.
You don't get a line.
That episode you did 2 episodes ago was sucked.
I talked to the director. You're out.
Take a break and re-examine your life right now.
Like, there's even a scene where Quark is in the sick bay, and it's Cisco and Odo deal with him. There's no Bashir.
There's no Bashir. Yeah, I think they say Bashir said it's fine. Yeah. I checked with Bashir off camera. We didn't even want to burn
this
film.
episode. Take it, me. Don't worry. Go to crafts. It's okay. You got your uniform, Mom? That's cool. You can hang in the back.
O'Brien's back in this episode, right? Yeah. He's been gone for 5 or 6 episodes because he's up to film a movie, right? So he's back here, and so we're like, we have no time for Bashir.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a shame that he wasn't back in the last episode. I would want to see him do the
Who?
rhyme.
O'Brien?
Yeah.
What, in the Alan
Little
Moraine?
Irish oh yes.
Yes. That's one of my big yes. Oh yeah.
Alamarin, count to 4. Alamarin, then 3 more. Alamarin, then 3 more. Alamarin, if you can see. Alamarin, come with me.
Alamarin, you'll come with me.
I've watched that so many times since last week, and I picked out like the 3 moments that the kid makes a mistake and kind of does the wrong movement and tries to fix it midway. Oh, it's great.
Right. Yeah, last week's episode was brutal, but hilarious and memorable on so many levels. This week's episode, I really do like. I think it's like the weakest of sort of these Ferengi focused Quark episodes that will sort of be a big part of this series. Because I think that Wallace Shawn is probably the quietest version of Zek in this episode. He's the most like respectable, and they're like I think in every version I see of Zek after this, he's way more like, "Wah!" Like I am not turning it down. Zek is here, baby.
A little bit more.
Yeah, not that he's that subtle in this episode. I just felt like he's more so than what I'm used to. But they was like, "You what? What? Quark?
The females and rice
and females."
Why
am I not being a Ferengi in this performance coming up on Friday? I don't know.
Wallace Shawn already kind of has like that voice, but he amps it. He somehow makes himself more Wallace Shawn to play this role.
He's like, I'm going to play with Wallace Shawn was a Ferengi.
Yeah, like he really lays it on thick, and it's great. But at a certain time, certain times, like it's like just annoying. You're just like, it's supposed to be, it's intentional, but it's Here,
I got a little clip here. Let's bring in a little clip. Wait, is this the clip?
The tubes.
This is when they're eating the grubs. Yeah, they are.
Are you sure? My compliments, Quark.
Yeah, I don't think I can show the video
These
for too
tube
long
grubs are chilled
without
to perfection. Did I say I was finished?
I do love the setup though. That was kind of
Please help
cool.
yourself.
It's like a spinning tape. It was like a lazy Susan with
I ran
multi
into your cousin
levels.
Barbo recently.
I talked to your cousin Barbo.
Armin Shimmerman really plays the role well, though. Like you really believe that he's in awe of the Nagus. Like I find he plays Quark so well, especially in these Quark centric episodes. Not easy to do. I think it's very. He has to be good for the episode to work.
Yeah,
and it does. And this is kind of the problem with Bashir. He hasn't quite figured out like what to do with Bashir yet, and that's why some of those episodes don't work. Whereas like Armin Shimmerman really knew what he was doing. Same thing kind of with Odo. So most of the characters are fleshed out, but not all of them. And it took time, and that happens, and that needs to happen sometimes in TV shows.
I think Armin Shimmerman is brilliant in the role of Quark. I think that they could have done anything with Quark. If they had said, guess what, we're making a new Star Trek series and it's a Ferengi captain, only Armin Shimmerman could have done it. Like I'm not saying like aside from Quark, if Quark had never been a thing.
No Rob.
Yeah, like I just think I don't think Quark. I think Quark as a character has like these qualities that I don't need. I don't need Rom. I don't even need to like play with Odo necessarily. I just like observing the episodes Armin Shimmerman performs. I think he's really strong in this role.
He has a good grasp on his character, so that when he's working with other like Cisco or Dax or like anyone, the guest star of the time period, it's just that's a moment where it kind of feels like lived in, where you're like, oh, that's Quark, and you can. Is this season 7 Quark? No, it's Quark. Right, he has a good grasp on the character already. Yeah. Right, it seems already like you can, if like you wouldn't be surprised if he had like a Bible that he wrote out about who Quark is,
Yeah.
right? And already had a good grasp on the past, present, and future of that character, right? It just seems that lived in, that well studied on that character as a whole.
Yeah, I'd say Quark doesn't have much of an arc. Like I'd say season 1 Quark is not that different than season 7 Quark.
Yeah.
Other than he's a little bit more moral maybe by the end. Like he's learned a few more lessons and he's made his friendships are maybe a little bit more solidified. But that's it. Like he's basically the same guy. He's very true to who he is.
But that's reality. Some people are not that much different 7 years down the road. Some people are who they are,
And then Rom is very, very, very different by the end, right? So and goes on. What? Spoiler alert! If you're listening for the first time, because I know we do have some listeners like that. But that would that he goes on to become the Grand Nagus. He goes on to become the next leader of their society, crazily enough. And his attitudes, like what he believes in this episode, seems to be kind of in line with traditional Ferengi values. And then he kind of by the end, he's very progressive and he's very much in line with Federation values and Bajoran values.
It's good, but we see the journey, right? And it's not like the journey doesn't make sense. There are different elements and things that occur to him, situations where he grows as an individual. And it's one of the best things of this series. So people stay tuned if you've never seen it before.
And Nog, like we haven't talked much about him tonight, but he's got some trouble in school. O'Brien, not.
That's my favorite part about this episode is O'Brien as the teacher.
As the substitute teacher.
How much he does not want to be there. How much he's like, really? A Vulcan stole your homework? Like, I mean, everything with O'Brien as the teacher he literally starts off, he's like, we got 2 weeks to get through this shit until Keiko gets back. I don't want to do this shit anymore. It's basically what he says.
All right, let's settle down. Let's settle down. Jake, Nog. Nog.
I like what Nog's wearing. It's very
Thank you.
easy.
Now,
Like it was in Flashdance.
we only have 2 more weeks to get through before Mrs. O'Brien returns from Earth, so that shouldn't be too difficult.
So he
Right.
came ahead.
Right, let's get out our homework pads. We'll begin with the older students. Your last assignment was to write an essay defining the term ethics. Let's start with...
Picks on Nog. I think he picks on Nog here.
Yeah. Well, Nog kind of like stoops down.
I
Why
don't
are you
have
having
my
a
essay.
Ferengi learn about
Why not?
ethics, dude?
My pad was stolen.
Is that a fact?
It's kind of, well, I think
Any
that
idea who's-
what are the ethics about teaching a Ferengi ethics in
It's
school? Because obviously they do have cultural differences. And so are you just teaching what ethics are as a concept, or are you teaching sort of what ethics are, or what is ethical?
Who stole it?
It happened at Quark's. I put it on a table, and there were some Vulcans nearby.
Hold on. You're saying Vulcans stole your homework?
Yes, sir.
It's so good. But
Oh, go ahead.
just in terms of like where Nog ends up, right?
But the best part of this episode is at the very end, a Vulcan walks by the bar at the very end, and both Jay,
I know, and she like has a little bit of a
little swag.
swagger. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna see if I can find that.
And-
Because that
I wish O'Brien was there in the background, and like after they leered her, they could have went like,
she could have been like, eh.
I got it, Dave, if you want it.
Oh, you have it? Oh, here.
"Oh, you have the sway."
Yeah, watch.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely I don't know. She might be Romulan. I think she's Romulan spy. I don't think Vulcan would walk like that. Just saying.
It should have been O'Brien with Cisco, and then Nog would have just like, "Look, she's right there. Get her." Or just
Yeah,
give me back my homework.
Yeah. He doesn't seem too concerned. He's
Yeah. Well, he's out of school at this point, so
right, and he's already accomplished that that paper, that essay. So
Okay, we haven't talked enough about the scene with Cisco and Dax.
Yes, thank you. It's like you guys are hitting all of my points here. It's great.
Yeah, that was an odd scene with the
Odd?
stew.
I thought
Do you
it was
remember this,
great.
Jeff?
the stew looked grosser than bugs that the Nagus was eating.
Isn't this like the famous stew they're always talking about in every other episode? Like the
I
my
kept
Bavarian stew.
looking at them like scooping at it, and I kept thinking like even the actors know this is gross, and like somebody made this and was like they couldn't tell that person no or something. Like whoever-
Aubergine stew. That's what it's called.
Doesn't it look like Salisbury steak sauce?
I mean, a round of
With, like,
Chikari and
warm-
chess, but I can see you're just sitting down to dinner.
I sat down half an hour ago about the time Jake was supposed to be home.
it looks like a
Aubergine
bowl of
stew.
vomit.
Looks delicious.
Like that's what it
so
looks
where's
like.
Jake?
Where else?
With Nog.
It looks like
Going
she'll
to my own
she'll, like,
adolescence
kinda
is
spit
good
at it.
enough. Surviving my sons is going.
She
Yeah.
does the Riker maneuver too.
Yeah, like she's just like there for the stew. And I don't know. It's
And you should go after him. I'm gonna stay here with the food.
It looks so gross. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand. They wanted to do something different and like make it look alien, but it looks.
He
so-
actually made the stew with the baseball in it. That's why the baseball.
it looks
look,
like the
look,
same color, roughly.
Look, there she goes. She's gonna like stab at it right here. Look how like she's like, I don't even want to touch this shit. I don't even. That fork was clean for sure. Like like
She was just like so good.
She
So
did 2
good.
takes with it, and she spit it out. And the last take that they used.
No, but here at the end, she goes to town on it, right? There's a glass of milk there. Why is like what's going
yeah,
on?
drinking that with milk.
Yeah, she throws the baseball. He throws the baseball to her, and then
Does she put it on the floor?
Aubergine stew.
yeah, she just scoops it right, which is fine. For her to actually eat it is a different.
It's just an odd. It's an odd scene. I gotta say, like, is these early scenes where they're trying to establish their relationship? I don't think it always quite works.
No, because like I feel like just as like if you were watching it for the first time, you would think like, are these two in a romantic relationship? Like, why are they like having dinner together alone? Like, what is the reasoning? Like it just seems like I think like a layman like person would be like, well, I get that Dax is like lived 7 lives. She mentions it that she's been like a father twice or a mother 3 times or whatever she says. And I get that she's kind of like this confidant to Cisco, but at the same time, like most of the time with these archetypes with TV shows, most people are going to be like, well, they're having dinner together at night. Like, why are they not like, are they romantic? Like, what is going on with these two characters? And that never happens ever with Dax.
You hear that like also as gossip in some of the dialogue. They throw that the writers I think know that, and they kind of throw it into some scenes like, I heard that she's dating Cisco.
Right.
You hear like Bashir and Quark will sometimes say these kinds of things to each other.
Did she request to come into his room or to the thing, or did it automatically open? I can't remember.
You wonder if she has a key?
Well, yeah. Or they
Let me
just
see.
used to her just walking in. I can't really remember that beginning of it. Is kind of
She rings the doorbell.
she rings. Okay,
Yeah, she rings.
Yeah, there's a door chime. Yeah, she doesn't have a key yet.
not yet. He didn't leave it under the with the mat.
Yeah, like
Home Sweet Cisco.
I mean, I do like the Cisco and the baseball stuff because, like, I mean, I keep a baseball on my desk just like Cisco. I mean, so I like that he's like this is his thinking aid because like he has like a like he has Jake on his mind like in this scene. Like that's really what the scene's about is the fact that like he's worried about Jake. He didn't want to come down to the Bajor with him. He wants to hang out with Nog. He's worried that like, and then everything his relationship with Nog, and he's just concerned. Like he's a good concerned father. And it's pretty clear. And I don't know. I just think they're fleshing out the fact that this captain's different. Like he's very different than Kirk and Picard. He has a child and they're really addressing it. They don't just like shush it away. Like it's very important to what makes Deep Space Nine work. I mean, so the baseball thing, I like that they kind of give him that, like that it's kind of his
he's
thing.
just throwing that into he's worried about his kid, man. That's what he's like my kid's hanging out with this Ferengi kid and he's a bad influence on him and he's lying in class. So Brian's grumpy about it. He's not fixing those replicators fast enough and whatever. So
Jeff, you're absolutely right. It gives Cisco kind of like this human quality, like this character quality that you can relate to. Like, what does Picard do when he is troubled? Right? Does he go into his dormitory, his room, and then play the flute? Right? He has tea and he looks off in the distance.
Mhm.
Right? What did Kirk do besides bang women? Right? In his off hours,
he worked out. We saw him sometimes. He was working out.
and then occasionally pass by and see people.
Karate. He was doing some karate.
He climbed El Capitan.
Yes.
Rock climbing. Horseback riding. We know he likes that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like physical activity. Yeah, that's kind of Kirk's thing for sure. And like you're right. Picard's thing is like order a tea and curl up with a warm book. Like that's kind of Picard's thing. And Cisco's got the baseball. Janeway, she likes to take baths. That's kind of what I remember about Janeway.
She likes going. She sometimes she says a coochie moya.
A coochie moya.
It's so good. I love that clip.
It's a great clip.
We are far from the bones of our ancestors.
Yeah, fire. It's just.
A coochie moya. We are far from the sacred places of our grandfathers and from the bones of our people. But perhaps there is one powerful being who will embrace this good crew and give them the answer they seek.
Perhaps.
The music is swirling. I love it. It's so great.
It's like on this week on the Wonderful World of Disney.
A coochie moya. What's your spirit animal? It was just like, we're not here to talk about that though. We're here to the Nagus.
Oh no, Voyager's a whole other box of words.
I would love to cover some Voyager episodes. There's a lot of things to unpack with some of those episodes, but
I only like Kim 1, not Kim 2.
I also enjoyed the baseball aspect of the Cisco's. I think that like on retrospect, I think a lot of like the Jake and Cisco, and Benjamin Cisco relationship, I think is really interesting on rewatch, more than I liked it when I was younger. So it's I think it works a lot. I think a lot of these metaphors here in this episode are good, and I also think like in the whole other aspect of this episode is the Ferengi and what we established here. The rules of acquisition are first introduced here. That becomes like,
is it?
No, there was one other episode where they mentioned it.
They mentioned it previously.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quark says, I think the second rule of acquisition in the second episode or the third episode. So it's not
I think I referenced it too, as well. I'm pretty sure.
But it might be. I'm pretty sure it's the second time they've talked that it's been mentioned. And
this is the first episode.
No. I'm positive that
next week we'll fact check it.
I have it right here.
I'm positive that in the second or third episode, Quark mentions a rule of acquisition to Odo.
I think you have a hard time finding that.
I'll find it and I'll prove it to you.
All right. I say this is the first introduction. I say this is the first introduction to the rules of acquisition, and the first rule of acquisition is it's actually said in this episode. And I mean, the rule number 1. Once you have their money, you never give it back.
Right.
We never learn all the rules, but
it says here on IMDb, it says the same thing. It's the first time, but I'm positive that the Quark says it to Odo.
That might be the Mandela effect, Jeff, where you just you forget
Bernstein,
it. You remember it differently.
Bernstein.
Maybe you're right. I was pretty sure that he had mentioned it. Should we do some fun facts? Have we talked about?
Let's get to fun facts. I think we've unpacked this episode quite a bit. I think that the fun fact is that this is the first introduction of the rules of acquisition, but our fun factor needs to be fact checked himself. He needs to be fun fact checked.
I don't think it's correct. I think you said the IMDb is wrong. Because I'm pretty sure we talked about it. But anyway, okay, so the Ferengi face seen on the Grand Nagus staff was originally sculpted to resemble Quark, Armin Shimmeren's face, which is kind of funny because you'd think it would have been crafted to Wallace Shawn, but I guess Wallace Shawn was probably casted pretty close to when they shot it. So the scene where Quark meets Nava is an homage to the opening scene of Francis Ford Coppola's 1972 movie The Godfather. So it really comes back to what you guys were saying about The Godfather. Quark's Corvin Gilvo, the way he scratches his ear, the blinds on the windows, even the dialogue, yet now you call me Nagus, are all allusions to the film. So
they basically wanted to make a Godfather in space episode.
Yes.
And that's why we got the Nagus, and this is why we get a lot of these things that go on to be big parts of Star Trek.
Absolutely. The alien forms of Korob and Sylvia are seen on a view screen in O'Brien's classroom. The original story featured Klingons, Romulans, Vulcans, and several new races visiting Deep Space Nine to establish a new criminal syndicate. The story was modified to specifically feature the Ferengi.
So kind of like an Orion syndicate sort of thing.
Yeah, they wanted to do a bigger, make the station seem even bigger with the amount of aliens on it, I guess. But they do include the Vulcan, and they do things that kind of like do that.
Yeah, we hired this woman to play the Vulcan. We use her. Yeah.
Do another take. You got to increase the swagger.
The swagger.
It would have made more sense just to make her a Romulan, but I'm guessing they used the Vulcan just for that joke where
they ate his homework or they stole his homework or whatever. So.
The Gratitude Festival is later celebrated on D69 in Fascination and Tears of the Prophet. So that's the big Bajoran festival that is mentioned by Sisko. The screen behind O'Brien in the school includes a figure of the puppet aliens from the original series Catspaw, as well as Tribbles. I didn't notice any of this. Do you guys notice any of this stuff behind O'Brien? I mean,
wait, let's go back. In the classroom, he's teaching them about all this stuff?
Yeah. No, it's just behind him. Like there's figures of puppet aliens. There's something else. There's the alien forms of Korob and Sylvia are seen on a view screen behind him as well. So I mean, I don't remember seeing any of this stuff, but I guess
I was just happy that O'Brien was back.
Here, let's bring this up. Is this?
Yeah, I guess that's what I guess. I mean, I did not pay attention.
I would not say that I've seen what I'm seeing here is anything close to.
I would just think that's a taco.
I love how they have like on the screen he has comparative xenology, but they're talking about ethics. So like, what is he teaching? Is he teaching ethics, or is he? Oh, I guess there's
some starships in the back. Some stars.
Or he hasn't changed the screen since Keiko has left, and he's like, "We're leaving there. I'm not touching that."
Yeah. Oh my god. So yeah, back to O'Brien. O'Brien returned in this episode. His last appearance was in Q-less, after which he and Keiko went to visit Keiko's mother for her 100th birthday on Earth. This is mentioned in the episode Dax. O'Brien returned sooner than his wife since he took over her class in school. So yeah, that's
get back to work, O'Brien.
Yeah.
Blacker, you've been gone for a month. Where was Rosalind Chow? Why couldn't she come back?
Yeah. I'm guessing when he came back, they're like, "We're giving you the worst scene in the episode.
We're giving you all the Keiko stuff. It's all you.
You're literally getting Keiko's lines here, and deal with it."
Did they write this for the security dude? For whatever his I already forgot him already.
Oh yeah, Primin.
Yeah, where's Lieutenant Primin? He's not in this episode. He's not helping
play this role.
He's gone. O'Brien's back. They're like, they kicked him right to the curb.
Yeah,
they didn't even do the same job. I don't get it. All right.
Okay. So at the beginning of Act 1, there appears to be a model, each of a Miranda class and a Nebula class vessel, in the rear of the schoolroom. The two models lack the upper hull attachments that usually adorn their respective ship classes. There is also a poster containing dorsal views of the 5 USS Enterprise vessels commissioned by the Federation Starfleet to date, along with other unknown diagrams. So yeah, so we already mentioned that, but okay. So Rom and Maihardu previously appeared together in the film The Rocketeer as Wilmer and Lothar, respectively, with the former brutally murdering the latter.
Yeah.
Sisko states that Molly O'Brien is 3 years old, even though only 17 months of real time elapsed between her birth in TNG and this episode.
Well, okay. I stand by the fact that Molly can't be that old yet. So I think that this look that O'Brien gives to Sisko early on is like, my daughter is not 3 years old. Here, let me find it. Here it is.
It would become me versus Nog, and I'm not going to force Jake to choose between us.
Why not?
Because I'd probably lose.
Oh, I doubt that, sir.
That's because your daughter's 3. Wait until she's 14.
I think this look is like, my daughter's not this idiot.
You don't even know how old my child is. Terrible captain. Hard to at least fake it. Jeez.
You're a bad boss. Chief, why didn't you fix those replicators?
I like Picard better. He was polite.
Yeah, he'd like to talk to me about model ships. You're always writing me about stuff.
Blow up the damn ship, Jean-Luc.
No.
The replicator's not working out.
Okay, and finally, Odo's appearance had been gradually modified over the course of the first 10 episodes. In this episode, it finally has the smooth, pale appearance that would remain for the rest of the series. And I did notice that Odo looked a little bit more correct. Not perfect yet, though. I disagree that it was remained the same because they definitely modified it by the next
episode.
But yes, he looks the most correct in this episode.
Yeah, it's like the nose is the right size now, and it's just like the whole thing looks proper.
I gotta say though, with this makeup that they wear, okay, how are these guys not hot as hell? Like, especially the Ferengi. Like, how are they? Like, they must just be roasting the actors in those makeups.
Imagine if you're out there in California too, right? So if you go outside,
what were you gonna say, Jaemeel?
They probably are roasting like crazy.
Did they pump AC and make it really cold in there when it was a Ferengi
well,
episode?
I think they have to. Yeah, they have to make it cold enough that their makeup doesn't melt.
Yeah, I think they're doing that in general, anyways, because typically even like a set like that is probably running very hot, so they have to pump AC in, or otherwise everyone's going to be like lifting up arms, and then you just see sweat stains.
Right.
Those lights are death, are literal death.
And then the makeup to boot. Yeah. I mean, man, that must be so uncomfortable to wear that.
And you don't have to be one of the actors who doesn't even have to wear the makeup.
Yeah, like
let's go.
The resentment.
Like what we left behind, how much Michael Dorn loved it when like O'Brien had to wear the Klingon makeup, and how much of a wuss he was about it. And
oh, that was the one, where they did that mission where they infiltrated the Klingons.
Yeah, he had to wear the Klingon makeup, and it was like he hated it so much, and it just goes to show like certain actors would never have been able to play an alien.
I just want to know: do the actors who wear makeup get paid more than the other actors?
No,
probably not.
Shouldn't they? Because aren't they doing overtime, sitting there in that chair, getting makeup on their face?
They might get paid by hour. There's a union and all that kind of stuff, right?
They're getting called to the set, so that's. They might
There's
have a different fee whatsoever. Like,
there's got to be
but it's not like
certain
you're getting
kinds
paid more.
of.
If you're a B character and you have to wear makeup, you're having to wear makeup, and you're not making as much money as your A-list actor.
Right.
Yeah, like obviously Avery Brooks would make the most money, and he doesn't have to wear any makeup. Probably on the show.
What was he known for prior to this, though?
Nothing really. I mean, he was in one thing. What was the thing? It was a TV show. That he
it's
was
before my time. Like it's before I like any shows I would know, because it's. He had done. Yeah, like he was known for certain type projects before.
Yes,
there was a certain
from a Star Wars Cup.
Star Wars Cup.
I
It
don't know.
was A Man Called Hawk. That was the TV show he was in. I mean, yeah, not nowhere close to what these are.
My past credits of a Man Called Hawk. It's like, oh,
Hey, Man Called Hawk. I
mean,
haven't checked it out, but
all he's really for me known for is Deep Space Nine and American History X. Those are the two movies that I know him, or the two things that I know him very well for.
the big hit.
Oh, the big hit. Yep.
Phone Buster.
But yeah, I mean, who do you think would get paid the most here? I mean, probably maybe.
Okay, hold on. I have to show this.
I mean, it's hard to know for sure, but I definitely wasn't Terry Farrell. I mean,
No,
it was.
And I don't think it was O'Brien either.
Yeah, I would think it might be O'Brien because he was in so many movies at the time and stuff. He was he wasn't a big actor either. I mean, none of these guys really were. Well, that's an awesome jacket.
Yeah, where is that? Hold on.
I was like, is that from Luke Cage?
Yeah.
This is Avery Brooks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's him.
Hold on, make this please.
Please tell me it was like a jazz musician in that show. Or like he was playing like Isaac Hayes' stand-in or
Go to the picture where he's holding the gun with the hat on. Not that one. The one like over to the right. Yeah.
What was this show? I gotta look this up.
Like, does Samuel Jackson know that like Avery Brooks was him before he was Samuel Jackson?
He's all, I don't know what
Did Samuel Jackson still Avery Brooks's career?
The one that went one season. It came out the year I was born, 1989. The series features the character from Spencer for Hire, so it's kind of like a sequel.
Or a spinoff?
Yeah, a spinoff, sorry. And this time he is the star. We find Hawk now in Washington, D.C., and there he is called upon to help those who need his help. What? He's kind of like
a vigilante?
Vigilante? He's a murder. Like, is he? What is he? I don't get it.
It's like Magnum. Not Magnum. Magnum was. I don't know. Kind of like Shaft. I guess Shaft.
He was like Shaft. Okay.
Okay.
Shaft's a cop, right?
Shaft was a cop. Yeah. No wait.
Oh, he was. Oh,
so
no.
Investigator later on.
Okay, so no, he's a private investigator. He was on a show called Spencer for Hire before he did Hawk. So it's kind of like it was a spinoff off
a show Spencer for Hire, which I'm also not familiar with. But.
Right,
like Booker with 21 Jump Street. Booker just kind of spun off of it.
And even back then, he had like the bald head and goatee.
And the goatee, and then they made him shave. I was thinking about that today, guys, and maybe you guys disagree with me, but I really like the fact that they don't give him the goatee when he's the commander, that he has just the hair and he's clean shaven, because I like that he progresses his look, and when he becomes the captain, like that's when he becomes like his look changes for me, and I like it. Like, I mean, in retrospect, I'm sure that the producers and Avery definitely would have wanted to just go with the goatee and the bald head right from the beginning. But I do like he seems different when he's the commander. He seems like a little bit.
I can appreciate in retrospect that he goes through this transformation, sort of the look of him, not just like his hair and facial hair, but also just his uniform, right? By the end, he's complete. He looks like a very different person than he does in this first season.
I hated from the first episode.
Yeah,
the haircut, right? When I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this haircut. Looks so awful.
Yeah, it doesn't look good
right now. It's awful.
It was kind of the style at the time, but not really. And I don't know.
He looks better with the bald head and the goatee. Like, he absolutely does look better that way. But at the same time, I kind of like for the character of Cisco, I appreciate that he developed and that his look developed.
And technically, it wasn't the style back then. If he had waves in his hair, then it would have been the 93.
Right. Yeah, it just never really he never felt comfortable, even I think in how he looked. Right. I think he was like, I have to look like this for this TV show, but this is not how I would want to look. I'd like to look like Hawk. I want to be a man called Hawk. Right. And
it's
so
Hawk didn't work out. You're playing Cisco now. And then he's like, okay. And then he does a couple of seasons and then break out the Hawk. And he's like, yeah.
We'll make you captain and we'll break out the Hawk. And it worked. And it worked so well. And I mean, sometimes you look at him and go, oh, I wish he looked like the Cisco I know. But and other times I go, I appreciate that he's not that Cisco yet. So
the gloves.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, he's not like that angry Cisco yet. That's like,
you're startling officers. Now start acting like it.
When he said that, that's bald Cisco.
No, but here when he yells at Jake in this episode, listen.
It's private.
Private.
I gotta go. I'll be late for school.
I want you home in time for dinner. Understood?
No bass in his voice.
It's not the same. It doesn't.
Not
have
quite the same, right?
No,
he can't quite get that. Mm.
And I think you're right that it probably had a lot to do with the actor's confidence and the way he looked and the way he was trying to portray the character, and all that stuff matters for sure.
Yeah, like who is Benjamin Sisko versus who is Avery Brooks? It's
right, but who is Benjamin Sisko in Avery Brooks's eyes? And I think that really matters. And like he doesn't really find. I don't really feel like he finds who Sisko is until like season 3. Like it takes him a couple years. But he's good at the role, but not fleshed out yet. Not fleshed out the way like maybe like we were just talking about Quark, who is consistent the whole way, or even Kira. I feel like is very fleshed out and very consistent the whole way. So you guys might disagree with me on that one, but I mean,
yeah, I agree that Sisko is way more hardened by the end. Way more like, but the war alone, but like they all go through the war together. But it's and O'Brien goes through quite a bit of suffering, but nobody's quite as tempered as Sisko is by the end. He's seen some stuff by the end, but and then he's gone. But spoilers. But wherever he is in wormhole heaven.
Although I keep on seeing reports about, man, they should have Sisko return for Picard season 2, and I'm like,
oh, that'd be crazy. I don't know if that'd work.
That would be way out of left field. Like that would, nobody's clamoring for that.
Picard is like not a good enough show. Like, I mean, it's not. I don't want them to do that. I barely won 7 of 9 on that show.
Jeff, they got to break out the Hawk. Right?
If they broke out the Hawk, it would improve the show like at least.
And we just have like a crossover where it's suddenly like Benjamin Sisko's return from the wormhole after 25 years or something, and he's brought a man called Hawk with him from another like dimension who's crossed over, right? And now there's 2 of them, and we got to deal with Sisko, we got to deal with a man called Hawk, and then there's tension.
What they do is they do a spin-off of Picard and they call it Sisko, and then he just comes out of the wormhole, and then we deal with the show from there. That would be, and now all of a sudden he's a jazz musician, and he plays in Quark's bar. He doesn't want to command anything. He just goes in Quark's bar and plays music. I'd watch that.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Have Avery Brooks. Like I love his interviews now because it just seems so off the wall, right? Just
he's awesome.
Just that.
Yeah,
talk about jazz.
No, yeah, we need to, I would love to come back to these characters. Obviously, I think Deep Space Nine they could make that, and it will make a ton of money because everybody would want to watch it. Like if you want to put that behind a paywall, people would pay to watch like the Return to Deep Space Nine. Picard, I think, has largely missed the mark because it's trying to set up a whole new crew and whatever, and I respect that. But I think that what a lot of people want is if you're going to bring back Picard, it's hard not to bring back the rest of his group, and
yeah,
to not have Worf there, and it's just weird.
Can you imagine they brought back like only Janeway? It'd be kind of like, all right, like I mean, there's not a lot. You can only tell so much about.
Well,
that
I can appreciate that they brought 7 of 9 back, and I think that's interesting to kind of bring Picard and 7 of 9 and maybe mix up some of the old crews. Like you want to bring a Deep Space Nine character into this series. I think there's maybe an opportunity for that.
Yeah. Especially with maybe even talks about like communications with a Trill, because now you have Picard living a second life now. So having that kind of discussed with like a Trill experience of multiple lives would be interesting, maybe.
Yeah, then they could do Dax and cast a new actor,
right? Where the sort of unofficial lore is that like after Deep Space Nine, Ezri Dax goes on to become a captain and kind of a big deal and whatnot.
Right, but they don't have to cast her. They could cast like a totally new actor and say, "This is Dax now." Like, they really could.
I like that idea a lot better. A lot better.
There's a new reboot of Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries or something. You gotta check that out.
So I get to hear that music all over again.
It's so scary. All right, Jeff, any more fun facts?
No, that was it. That was the last one. Was about Odo and his face.
Okay, well, we've been talking about this for about an hour. I think we've talked about everything there is to sort of squeeze out of the story of the Nagus, because I think we all agree it's a pretty strong, solid story. Set up a lot of things, and I think it's a lot better than the Alan Moraine, although maybe not as memorable. Won't stick in our short term memory. Alan Moraine, the battle cry of the all the sticks.
Love it.
Anyway, here, so let's plug everything else. So we're continuing this 3.5 year journey as we rewatch all of Star Trek DS9. Join us next week for the episode that came after the Nagus, which is called Vortex, which I barely remember this episode. It's got some egg-shaped. I don't know what's going on in this episode, but
character.
Yeah, it's an Odo-focused episode, I believe, and that's where we're going next week. Also here on Live Long and Podcast, join us on Thursdays for original series rewatches. We don't do those in any particular order. That's just kind of where we go next. And so this coming Thursday, we're talking about the Tholian Web, where we're going to have a special guest. Jeff's been bumped. And we're bringing in Keith Rondeau's wife. I forget her first name, but she's coming in. Ted Mater's bringing in our dad, and we'll have Jody Simpson on that. It's going to be a great night to talk about the Tholian Web. And on Friday, join us for our second performance of Star Trek Radio Theater, Friday Night Live. These performances are live, and we have some excellent things coming up. Like, let's see. I have the cast here. Jeff, who are you playing in this show?
Playing Picard, I believe. Troy. I've been thinking about how I'm going to do Troy. I mean, I do have my standard way of just speaking really slow and doing data.
Right.
I need to have a conversation. So, I mean, that's kind of my standard Troy.
So this is the cast we're going ahead with, if you can see it there. And so, we have Ashley, of course, is going to be playing Luxana and Data in this famous Menage a Troy episode. Jeff, you have Picard, and this is the episode where the famous Picard meme comes from, as we see here with him holding out his hand. This is used all over the internet for many years now, and it originates here. So you have to bring justice to that. Plus, have Troy, and you have Ethan Phillips as Dr. Ferrick, of course, Neelix, and Geordi.
I should do him as Neelix.
Yeah, you should do him. Yeah, if Neelix was afraid, well, yeah, just do him as Neelix.
Picard, I don't know. I was thinking about doing him like Tony Soprano.
No, I don't know. I think you have to do him because he has to do like Shakespeare in this episode. I don't know.
Hey, Tony Soprano doing Shakespeare, man.
Nice guy.
Do what you want with it, Jeff. Yeah, I have some interesting characters, including Riker, which I have no idea what to do with Riker quite yet. Worf, I think I know what to do. Grax,
John Wayne for Riker.
I think I'm going to do the John Wayne for Riker. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning, but that's a very unnatural voice for me. And Crusher, who has like barely any lines in this episode, even though it's a Wesley focused episode. Speaking of Wesley, Wesley is played by Jane, including Damon Togg and Nibor, as well as some other Ferengi crewman line will also be going to Jane. So check that out here on Live Long on Podcast, Friday night, 9:00. Do not miss it. And Saturday, join us for our Star Trek movie rewatches. This is the end as we go into Star Trek Beyond Darkness. This is the final
Beyond Darkness.
Beyond. Oh yeah, Star Trek Beyond officially, but I think it's Star Trek because they went Star Trek Into Darkness in the last movie. I think this is Star Trek Beyond the Darkness, or something. Something.
No, they didn't even want to mention Darkness because they don't even want to acknowledge that movie.
They don't. They basically ignore that Into Darkness was a movie, and they make there's some interesting lines in the script that are like try to distance themselves from that movie, which I think it's gonna be fun. So, what else? Oh, and check out our other channels, including Super Mater Brothers podcasting, but maybe more importantly right now, Trivial Debates. On Sunday, we are going to have Trivial Debates hosted by Chris Seymour. I think it's got Kevin Millard, and it's got Jane's going to be competing for the first time ever on Trivial Debates, and Jody, I think, is in there. So yeah, check that out. And yeah, I think I'm done plugging everything we got.
The Sunday Night Delight.
Wow. Yeah. Busy podcasting network here, guys.
Sunday Night
night. Sunday night fight night. Trivial debates. Here we go. Yeah, it's a once a month thing. So it's kind of an exclusive privilege to get on the show.
It's a treat.
It's a
Treat
treat
yourself this week.
You know, it's not to be squandered here on in the network.
It's like a well refrigerated grub.
Grub is great. Like compliments to what? The replicator? Like, who is he complimenting?
Quark was very happy with the compliment.
Yeah,
Oh no. Okay, guys. I think that's it, and we'll see you on the flip side later.